Howard, my dad was T-boned by a utility vehicle and is in surgery now. What should I do?
I'm sorry to hear about that. It's really great that you're getting him the medical care and treatment that he needs right now. These are 3 important things that I think you need to know. Injuries are unexpected and turn lives upside down. I'm Howard Ankin, and I'm here to help. If you or a loved one have been hurt at work or in a car, truck, or rideshare accident, call 312-6-million. Injury law made personal. That's Ankin Law.
I mean, I said it the other day. I think the rate's a really hard place to play when you have, shirtless left center field. Left field is just full of shirtless males, and it's just Southside Chicago fans are the best in the country, and that's the thing. It's like I know that they've been starving for a team to cheer for, and I mean, hopefully we've given them that. We love their support. We love the environment that they've created. I mean, some of the walk-offs, it's not near as memorable when you have 10,000 people versus 35,000 people. It's just the eruptions, the big moments, and knowing that the South Side of Chicago is in the stands. It's a lot of fun.
From your favorite source for Chicago White Sox talk, delivering news, interviews, analysis, and more. This is the Sox Machine Podcast with your hosts, Jim Margulis, James Fegan, and Josh Nelson.
Thanks, Rob, and welcome to the Sox Machine Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Nelson, and it's Thursday night, June 11th, 2026, as we record this episode. It's been a wild couple of days weather-wise for our friends who live out in the western suburbs, the south suburbs, and in northwest Indiana, even for those that live in southern Wisconsin. We hope you are safe. Multiple tornadoes and damaging winds passed through the Chicagoland area the last 2 days. Luckily, the White Sox and Braves got Wednesday's game in, but Thursday's game was postponed until Thursday, August 20th. That's the next day after the Crosstown Classic Part 2 that'll be at Wrigley Field. But the White Sox won 2 games against Atlanta, in large thanks to Braden Montgomery making his very anticipated MLB debut, and Davis Martin bouncing back in a big way. With those 2 wins and a timely sweep in Cleveland by the New York Yankees, the Chicago White Sox are in first place of the American League Central. It's been a long time since we podcasted about a first place White Sox team. On this show, we'll be joined by one of our friends from Baseball Isn't Boring, Courtney Finnicum, as we share why we believe in this White Sox team, who's been the biggest surprise, and who needs to step it up to ensure the White Sox stay ahead of Cleveland. Chicago White Sox General Manager Chris Getz spoke before the Atlanta Braves series. He shared his thoughts on the timing of calling up Braden Montgomery.
Felt like coming back with his homestand and an important part of the schedule to bring Braden up here and have him join the other young players and other players on this roster to for him to experience what it's like to be a major league player, and hopefully he helps us win some games along the way.
And Braden has already made an impact as he hit a walk-off home run in his MLB debut, and he followed that up with 2 doubles against the Braves on Wednesday. Typically, the White Sox prefer a soft landing for a prospect to get their feet wet in the majors, but Getz believed that Braden Montgomery was ready now for the challenge.
Just like the fans have been so supportive, from the beginning of this season, and certainly here recently as they've been able to watch these young guys continue to grow, to get a chance to bring Braden up here, feel the excitement that our fans have brought, and be a part of this growing team. It just felt like it was the right time. The biggest focus all along was really getting Braden to a place where we felt most comfortable about bringing him to the big leagues, and it happens to be at this part of the schedule. Could have been earlier, could have been later. We're trying to balance what's best for a player developmentally, along with being as competitive as we can at the major league level. We felt like today was the right time.
Now that the White Sox are in first place, Getz has to work on helping the roster stay ahead of Cleveland and even Detroit now that Tarek Skubal has returned. It's a much different plan than what Getz was preparing for back in spring training, but he's trying not to lose focus on the big picture.
Don't want to lose sight of the development of these players. That's been the primary focus, and we'll continue to stay on that track. But I also don't want to dismiss and be unfair to what these guys are doing, and that's the beauty of baseball and professional sports, and that they need to recognize how these guys are playing and where we are in the standings. So the highest priority is finding opportunities to give runway to young players in our minor league system, or you look for a waiver wire acquisition or something that makes sense to fuel this club. So I think it's more, being respectful to this team and how they're playing, but certainly not losing sight of the future of the Chicago White Sox and what we've built, where our farm system is. Obviously, we've got the top pick in the draft this year, and a draft just around the corner, and finding ways to add to the talent pool that we have. There's different ways of doing it. But I want these guys to, and I know that they will, just go out there and try to get a win tonight. Solve for today. That's what Will and the staff and the players have done so well, and we're going to stay on that track.
If the White Sox do add, it sounds like it'll be on the pitching front.
Probably us and every other club that's out there, regardless of where you are in the standings, are always looking at the pitching. And with this group too, I mean, it's a young starting group. It's a young relievers. I mean, it's young pretty much across the diamond, which is great. And this is a tremendous challenge to navigate, a major league season. And we've been able to remain competitive, and we'll look for opportunities. There's different ways of doing it. So we don't want to look too far ahead of us. But I don't think there's a day that goes by that you're not, monitoring where your pitching is on the internal side.
Chris Getz also had a few injury updates. First, Noah Schultz.
Yeah, he's progressing well. I know, today, if today goes well, we'll take the next steps, whether, a bullpen or another day of catch play. So, we our assessment on him right now, he's trending in the right direction, and we look forward to getting him going.
Then Munetaka Murakami.
Doing really well. We're a little over a week into his recovery. We estimated kind of that 4 to 6 weeks. And it's going to remain, in that window. But we're going to, we'll assess one day at a time.
Kyle Teal.
It feels really good. They're continuing to expose them to different on-field activities, whether it be on the defensive side, squatting, making cuts on the base pass. Obviously the offensive side as well. So it's trending in the right direction, and we hope we can send them on a rehab sooner rather than later.
And Shane Smith and Drew Thorpe, who both sound they are still far away from helping this season.
So Drew had appendicitis, right. And obviously that altered some things. He was shut down from essentially throwing for a little bit. So I don't know the exact timetable on a return from Drew. He is doing well now that all that stuff is behind him. But to say precisely where I think he'll get into the mix, I think he's, I think that would be premature to say, but just based on how things have developed on his side. Shane Smith is feeling good, and he's continuing to progress. There was some shoulder stuff going on there, and I feel like we're in a pretty good spot. He's in a pretty good spot with that, and continue to build him up.
A quick preview of the upcoming weekend series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Los Angeles Dodgers visit the South Side with a record of 44-25. That's good for first place of the National League West. They are currently 8 games ahead of the San Diego Padres. They won their last game in Pittsburgh, and they have won 6 of their last 10 games. They are 6-4 during that stretch. On the road, they are 22-13. Your pitching probables for this series, Friday night, June 12th, first pitch at 6:40 p.m. Central Time. The weather should be clear this weekend in Chicago. For the Dodgers, will be Roki Sasaki against Anthony Kay of the White Sox. Saturday afternoon, this is a 3:10 p.m. Central Time start. It's Colson Montgomery bobblehead day, and the Chicago Sports Bums are hosting one of their famous tailgates in Lot B before the game. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be pitching for the Dodgers against Sean Burke of the White Sox. On Sunday, June 14th at 1:10 p.m. Central Time, it is Hello Kitty Day. Emmett Sheehan will take the ball for the Dodgers against Eric Fedde for the White Sox. Keep an eye on the injury news for Shohei Ohtani. He left Thursday's game in Pittsburgh during the 7th inning due to left knee inflammation. We'll see what his status is for the series, as Ohtani has 13 home runs and a season OPS of .964. Andy Baez leads the Dodgers in both home runs and RBIs. He has 15 home runs this year with 56 RBIs, and Max Muncy has a weird stat line. He has 14 home runs, but only 24 RBIs. With James at the stadium and Jim getting a much-deserved day off, pinch hitting for them is one of our best friends of the podcast. You can hear her on the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast and also Pitch and Moan. It's Courtney Finnicum. Hello, Courtney. Thanks for joining the show again.
Josh, you know I always love to come on. I appreciate the invite, and we have some exciting things to talk about. I mean, I love doing the White Sox podcast now because when was the last time we had consistently positive things to talk about? It's been a long time.
That's a good point. You didn't like it in 2024? That was history.
When I was doing these negative podcasts with Rob and I was complaining and all that stuff, I actually joked with Rob this week. I go, in the 4 years that I've worked with you, Rob, have we ever had this much positive White Sox stuff to talk about? Never. So we're here, and I love it.
The White Sox, as we record this, are currently in first place. What a time to be alive. And I thought I saw on social media you are undefeated in attending games.
Ever since opening day, I am currently 8-0. And that includes the series in Arizona that I was at in April. So I have a legitimate streak going.
So with the White Sox being in first place, I think the natural question is, even for the most dour of White Sox fans still, is this real? Is this team good enough to stay ahead of Cleveland? Detroit now has Tarek Skubal back, and they've been playing better baseball of late. Is this real? Do you believe that the White Sox have the ability to reach the postseason this year?
So I'm going to say yes with one caveat. So we are seeing obviously better defensive play than we ever have. We're seeing better fundamentals. We're seeing them win close games, which was never a thing. That was never a thing last year. That was their Achilles heel last year, amongst many other things. So we're just seeing clean, better baseball being played on the South Side. The caveat that I see with this team, though, is fatigue. You know, can they handle a 6-month grind season like this? This is obviously a very, very young team. You know, they don't know any better yet. They don't know how. I mean, right now they're doing great work against the Braves, obviously. That was a huge hurdle for them to kind of get over and see what they could do against baseball's best. But the schedule doesn't stop. You know, obviously we have the Dodgers this weekend. Then they go to New York. And then, you know, Detroit, who's playing better, as you said, has been winning series, and Tarek Skubal's back. And then obviously come home to play Cleveland. So it just keeps going. So that to me is going to be a very interesting factor about just fatigue. You know, is this team really set up for a 6-month grind? That's going to be interesting for me.
Yeah, and I guess from the other side, for someone that has been historically known as being more pessimistic than optimistic, I will say, Courtney, the fact that this team, again, just put everything in perspective. They started 1-5, and it wasn't a close 1-5. They were outscored 52-21.
Yep.
The fact that we're talking about a first-place White Sox team in mid-June, they just have this ability, as Jim continues to say, to kick out, this resilience, and to continue to overcome any obstacles that get thrown their way. I mean, we're talking about a White Sox team that just won a series against the best record in Major League Baseball right now, the Atlanta Braves, without Munetaka Murakami and Colson Montgomery. Like, that is a pretty big feat by this White Sox team. So that's the reason why, for someone that's been historically known as dour, I am optimistic that the White Sox can make the postseason this year. It does help that the American League's not that strong. But when you look at how the White Sox won this series against Atlanta, Courtney, without Munetaka Murakami and Colson Montgomery, what does that say to you?
To me, it shows me that they're deeper than what a lot of people think. You know, they're getting timely hitting. They're getting contributions from really everybody. Everybody's really kind of pulling their weight. I think it was incredibly important for us to see Davis Martin bounce back last night against this very good Braves team.
Point.
You know, obviously he had 2 back-to-back pretty shaky starts where everyone was like, okay, is Davis Martin slowly regressing? Because everyone was kind of expecting that. And then he comes out and he just sort of dominates this extremely good Braves team. So I think they're showing, again, that this is a deeper team. You know, it's not just the Colson Montgomerys. It's not just Murakami. Everybody's kind of pulling their weight. And, you know, the guy that we just traded today, Derek Hill, I know we're gonna talk about that a little bit. You know, he contributed when he was here. So we're getting all of these contributions from a lot of different guys. And that is, to me, has shown me that as much as it's cliche, and it is cliche, but it's the truth, all these guys have the same mindset. They're all coming with the same mindset every single day to the ballpark. We want to win. We want to do things the right way. And I keep saying this, and it's the truth, though. They genuinely like each other. And you're going to win more games with that formula than you are going to lose. So I feel like we're seeing that this team is deeper than what a lot of people expected.
You're telling me like the 2022 White Sox didn't like each other, Courtney? I'm kidding.
Oh, we can get it. We can do a whole separate podcast on that.
If you take a look at the most recent projections, computers themselves are starting to buy into the White Sox. Fangraphs now has continued to raise its projection final win-loss record for the White Sox at the end of the year. Listeners to now 78 and 84. That win total was in the 60s to start. Pacoda over at Baseball Prospectus is now at 77 and 85. And if you are a betting person on the betting market, DraftKings now has the White Sox with the second best odds to win the American League Central at plus 310, while Cleveland is still at minus 155. You talk about as far as like the clubhouse vibes and how the players are working together. I think a lot of that can be contributed to the way that Will Venable has managed this White Sox team. We were at the winter meetings, Courtney, when Venable was introduced, and even last year getting a chance to chat with him in Orlando, Florida. He is someone that has said that his managerial style is leading by empathy. And I think giving that freedom as far as the clubhouse and the players to run the clubhouse, I think we see that on the field as well as off the field as far as them liking each other. And let's use a Gen Z term. The vibes are good for the White Sox.
They are.
But there are those, as far as White Sox fans, and even I would say in the media as well, that question some of the in-game decision-making for Venable. And that did come to light this series against Atlanta with the bunt attempts. Do the bunt calls annoy you? Do they bug you? How are you feeling about Venable as far as managing during in-game decision-making?
First and foremost, I do want to call out the fact that Will Venable, to me, this is his best managerial year he's had with the White Sox, which is not a surprise with the way they've been playing. I think your call out about leading with empathy is the truth when it comes to him. He's very much a people person. He's very much, you know, kind of that leader that you want on your side. He's got these guys' backs, you know. We saw him a couple nights ago take accountability for some of the in-game decisions that was made. And that was really refreshing. You know, we didn't get that with the last regime, right, Josh? So that was very refreshing to see. So I think he's the perfect guy for this young team in regards to the chemistry and keeping the clubhouse loose, letting guys be themselves. I think that's really shown through. Now, as far as the bunting is concerned, I know this is a hot topic on lovely White Sox Twitter. For the most part, I am an overall pro bunt person with the right player, though. With the right player. I think, obviously, a guy like Tristan Peters, even though he is hitting the cover off the ball, a guy who does it well, you know, when we had Derek Hill, putting him in bunting positions, Acuna, putting him in bunting positions, even my drops to a certain degree. I think certain scenarios, I think the bunting is good, but I also think that this team has shown that they can hit, right? So why not embrace the power that a lot of this team has shown? You know, they love the word slug in the White Sox clubhouse, right? So might as well embrace that. Embrace this team hitting, and let's show some, you know, offensive prowess besides just the bunts. But with certain guys, I'm still okay with it. I still am. I'm still pro bunt with the Acunas and the Tristan Peters of the world. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think the situation is the Drew Romo situation.
Yes.
And I'm with you. I like how Venable took accountability. I should have wiped off the bunt call when I was noticing and just how close Matt Olson was to home plate. That there was no way that Romo was going to be successful in that situation.
Absolutely.
However, Courtney, the way that Venable has been managing some of these players, I think we all had questions. Like, Drew Romo is probably a quadruple A player, probably a backup catcher in the major leagues, not a full-time starter. Tristan Peters continues to surprise us, and he continues to gain more confidence. Luis Angel Acuna, his OPS is still below 600. I think for some of these guys in these situations, Venable knows I need the ball in play.
Exactly.
And with some of these guys, my confidence right now is I can only trust you to put the ball in play if you bunted. And I wonder if this team continues to get healthier, for one, and maybe better. Like with Tristan Peters, I think you can wipe off the bunt call. Just let him decide on what he wants to do.
I agree with
the way
that.
he's been hitting, as you mentioned. That I think if this team gets better talent, we'll see fewer bunts. I don't know. That's just kind of my feeling about the whole situation.
I fully agree with that. I think that's a great call out. One more little comment I do want to make about Will Venable's managing that has made me a little crazy, and I've talked about it on Twitter and on podcasts. I do feel like at times he doesn't handle the starting pitchers as much as I would like him to. As in, there's been times where he's had a quick hook on Davis Martin, who's thrown 85 effortless pitches where I thought he could go another inning. You know, that's been a little frustrating at times. There's also been times where he's brought out a pitcher. There's a situation with Fetty a couple weeks ago where he was clearly struggling, brought him out again to another inning, and he continued to get lit up. So there's been situations like that with some of the starting pitchers where I'm like, okay, Will, you know, you don't need to have a quick hook on a guy like Davis Martin. If he's throwing effortlessly, let him just keep going, right? So that has been the only kind of obvious frustrations to me, has been that one.
Yeah, the one for me, I think it's a little aggressive with his bench guys.
I could see that.
When Colson Montgomery has the day off and he's your last guy on the bench and it's the 7th inning, okay?
Yes.
Risky.
I agree with you.
I don't know who the emergency catcher is right now for the White Sox.
That is a good call out too. That is a very good call out. Yes, that is true. Good points. But overall, I think we can give, I mean, if I'm going to give him a grade, I'm going to give Will Venable a B right now. I think he's done overall a very good job with this team.
I mean, if you voted today, he might be American League Manager of the Year with the way that this White Sox team has turned around. So a little nitpicking on Will Venable, but I know it's been pretty popular in the comment section in Sox Machine. But overall, I'm with you, Courtney. I think he's done a fantastic job, and he's definitely been the manager this organization has needed. We touched on the Derek Hill trade, so for podcast listeners, you probably already know about the trade. You could read as far as the news report on SoxMachine.com. It's a pretty straightforward trade. Everson Pereira was going to rejoin the White Sox. Instead of just DFAing Derek Hill, they decide to send him to Philadelphia. I think this is a move where it is a little bit heartbreaking because so many players in the clubhouse enjoyed having Derek Hill as a teammate.
Yes.
But on the same side, Courtney, I feel like Chris Getz did Derek Hill a pretty big solid by sending him to Philadelphia, who looks like a playoff team right now. And with Adolis Garcia hurt, the Phillies are in need of a veteran outfielder. So I don't know much about these prospects, White Sox fans. I think we're all going to be learning. But what do you make of this, again, a pretty minor trade between the White Sox and Phillies?
You know, I think it's refreshing that the front office appears to be doing a pretty solid job, I think, as you said, with this particular move. You know, Derek Hill was sort of an odd man out, right? It was nothing that he really, to me, did. It was just sort of a numbers game. We knew Pereira was coming back. He was kind of the odd man out. But again, to your point, good clubhouse guy, good veteran presence, contributed to a lot of these wins, right? I mean, he really did. So, you know, I've had a couple of White Sox fans tweet me negatively about Derek Hill, and I'm like, guys, like, this guy was a great clubhouse guy, veteran presence. This is a guy good teams need, you know? So I appreciate everything that he did for the Sox. And to your point, he's going to get playing time in Philadelphia, it sounds like. And he's going to a team that now has new life. You know, the Phillies are right in the middle of a playoff spot. So to your point, and I agree with, I think Chris Getz did a good job here. Did Derek Hill, you know, a solid by getting him to a team, a good team. And it helps the Sox. They didn't just DFA him. You know, I don't know much about these prospects. It appears Coleman has some decent numbers, but I don't know much. That trade broke while we were kind of getting on here. So we'll be learning together. But I think overall it was a good move.
Everson Pereira. So that we know the White Sox need another right-handed power bat in this lineup to help out Miguel Vargas. on that side of the plate. And I think Pereira, he has shown some surprising power. Now, he hasn't played in a game as we're recording this before the White Sox and Braves played their third game. So maybe after this recording, Pereira hits 3 homers to back up this point. But I am curious now on how the outfield configuration will work with Pereira, because I do feel like you need him in the lineup every day. And we'll chat about Braden Montgomery in a second here. But the way that Tristan Peters has been playing in the outfield and hitting, you need Pereira to have at-bats. I think you got to play Braden Montgomery every day.
Every single day.
Sam Antonacci's been really good against right-handed pitching, and he's getting better defensively. I'm curious on how Will Venable now works out this outfield configuration. Do you have any thoughts as like what you would like to see on how the White Sox outfield looks?
I think it's kind of a good problem to have to a small degree. I think you bring up an interesting point. And I think it's kind of funny that you didn't even call out Andrew Benintendi, by the way.
There are days that I forget that Andrew Benintendi is still on the team, Courtney.
Same. I literally crossed my brain while I was speaking. And I'm like, you know what? Wait, what about Andrew Benintendi? But
there's this position called designated hitter, and he's perfect for it.
Perfect for it. Yes, he is. And that's where I think he'll stay for the time being. But to your point, I don't think you can take a guy like Tristan Peters out of the lineup right now. I really don't think you can, with the way his defense has been, the way his bat has been. To your point, Antonacci is learning a brand new position and learning it quite well and quite quickly. He's made some great plays in the outfield. I mean, to me, you have to have Braden Montgomery somehow in the lineup playing him every single day. So to your point, where does that leave an Everson Pereira or a Tristan Peters? I do think, to your point, that we've shown, some flashes with Pereira of having some power, but there's some question marks in the outfield now. I think that's a good point. I think we kind of have to wait and see how this all looks with Pereira being back now. But this will be interesting.
Yeah, it opens the door to, we're going to play this by platoons.
Yes.
Where if it's a lefty on the mound, all right, Pereira, you're definitely getting the start. Antonacci, you'll be sitting down. We talked about this in a couple of podcast episodes, listeners. Antonacci has been really struggling against left-handed pitching. He's been great against righties. So when there's a righty on the mound, which is about 75% of games right now in Major League Baseball that a right-handed pitcher is starting the game, you want Antonacci and you want Peters in the lineup, and you still want Braden Montgomery in the lineup. So it's like, where does Pereira get at bats? Because you probably want Andrew Benintendi to be DHing. So maybe Pereira will not be playing as often as we thought he would when he was with the White Sox back in April, because I wanted him to get an extended run before getting hurt.
Same.
But this is, I don't know if I like the phrase good problems. This is a fun puzzle to solve. Puzzles can be fun, right?
They
can
like
be good.
That. Fun puzzle. I might steal that because, good problem doesn't really make much sense in that world. But to your point, this team has evolved since April, right?
Yeah.
Like, we were all kind of grasping onto straws in April, being like, oh, wait, maybe this Pereira has some pop. Maybe he's, the team has totally changed now since the last time he was up here. So to your point, maybe he does become kind of a bench guy at this point. So it'll be interesting and a good puzzle to have. I like that.
Well, I mean, in future games, like if you're going up against a tough right-handed pitcher and you want as many left-handed bats, eventually that opposing team's going to call their best left-handed reliever to face a Sam Antonacci or Tristan Peters.
Yep.
When you have someone like Everson Pereira looming on the bench, it's going to make the other team double think their decision making later in games with bullpen decisions. So that, to me, that only makes the White Sox more dangerous. I just think Everson Pereira will not be getting like everyday plate appearances moving forward. That's going to be the different situation he's walking into as he left in April. So be interested to see how the White Sox do in the outfield front.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams sale and get 30% off Super Paint, Super Deck, and Woodscapes products June 12th through the 22nd. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
We did get some good news before Game 3 between the White Sox and Braves that Colson Montgomery has returned to the lineup. He missed 2 games as the White Sox wanted to give him a couple of days off as they're trying to avoid any serious injury to the back. So the back starts barking up on Colson Montgomery. The White Sox are going to give him a couple of days off. When it comes to back injuries for shortstops that are 6'4", 6'5", like Colson Montgomery, Courtney, how concerned are you about this nagging injury?
A medium concern. This one appears not to be structural. I believe they said he did it on a swing, correct?
Yeah.
The issue that I have, though, is it's not his first time. This is not an injury that has just occurred for him. That was kind of a fluke thing. And I think we all remember Mr. Joe Creedy and his back issues, right? And how that shortened his career. So to me, there is a medium concern because this appears to be a little bit of a nagging thing with Colson. And to your point, he's a big guy, plays shortstop, plays the infield. This particular injury did not kind of come out of nowhere. He was swinging, but at the same time, this is not the first time. So I think it's something to monitor. But, I do like that they're giving him rest because backs, as we know, are very tricky. And I think they know, obviously, this is not the first time with Colson and that it can be tricky and they want to sort of handle it with kid gloves. But it's a medium concern because, again, not his first rodeo with this. And I just think of Joe Creedy. And, that's such a promising third baseman. And obviously, he, won a World Series with us and it was great. But, to think about that is always a concern of mine. And my own personal issues with back situations, I can relate. It's a pain in the butt. So it's definitely a medium concern for sure for me.
Moving forward, as we heard earlier in the show from General Manager Chris Getz on how his job continues to change week by week, especially from spring training when he was focused on player development. Now he has to take the trade market seriously. Instead of selling, he has suddenly found himself to being a buyer. And as he mentioned, Courtney, he and every contending team could use more pitching. Is that the biggest area of need that the White Sox, if they do continue to contend, to buy before the trade deadline? Or is it like time to see what maybe someone like Hagen Smith has got?
I think both. I think that the Sox kicking the tires of kind of a mid to back end rotation starting pitcher, I think would be good. I do think that it has to be a guy that's under some sort of team control. I don't think a rental would be any benefit for this team right now. I mean, I've had some people tweet me Freddie Peralta. Number one, I think the Mets are going to want a lot for him. And, he's going to be a free agent after this season. So what's the point? To me, an interesting name that we keep seeing floating around is Reed Detmers, right? I'd be curious to see what the Angels would want for him. I don't think it's any really necessary need right now to gut the entire team for a starting pitcher, because I do think it's time to give Hagen Smith a shot. He started off a little bit slow in Charlotte, and in AAA, obviously, but I think he's turned it on these last couple weeks. And, why not? I mean, yeah, obviously he'll be, if the rumblings are true about him being called up this weekend against the Dodgers, very tough feat, obviously, start getting thrown right into the wolves against a team like the Dodgers. But to me, as we saw with Braden Montgomery, let these guys come up and see what they can do. So I think a little bit both. I think it's okay to give Hagen Smith a month until the deadline and see what he's got. And then if they feel like he's not the guy moving forward, maybe kick the tires at a mid-level back-end rotation guy.
Yeah, when it comes to trades, I just want to be firm with this podcast, listeners. I am very much against the idea of dealing Caleb Bonham
I know you
right
are.
now. Billy Carlson is still learning an A-ball. I know he was your most recent first-round pick. You would have to your point, Courtney, if I'm getting someone with multiple years of control, yep, I think I'd be okay with the idea of floating someone like Billy Carlson, only because in a month we'll be talking about the MLB draft and you have the first overall pick, so you can replace some of that infield depth with some of your draft picks that you'll be using at pick number 1 and pick number 41. So I don't think you can definitely dream, but if a team calls is like, well, we're not moving this guy unless you include Caleb Bonham, And then you just pick up the phone and start calling other agents and teams.
Here's my thing, and I
would
agree
trade
with you
Bonham.
on Caleb, Josh. I do agree with you. I think it's because I've just been so burnt by the last rebuild where it's like, a Billy Carlson, I think absolutely. I think that would be a fine guy to package for a middle of the rotation guy that's under team control. But we really don't know how these prospects are going to turn out. I still live by that. Yes, we're seeing contributions right now from the guys being called up, which has been great, obviously. But, to me, prospects are prospects until they're not. So if you can get a major league guy, a major league pitcher that has proven himself in the big leagues, and you really think you can make a push and win this year, I think you do it, right? I just think you do it. But time will tell.
I hold on to Bonham because he punished Garrett Cole, and you need as many hitters that can crush quality pitchers like Garrett Cole.
You're right. You're right.
That's why I hold on to Bonham.
You're right.
Everybody else though could be available for the White Sox. And we'll end as far as this lovely conversation with Courtney with quick fire because she's excellent in these types of questions. So I've got some quick fire questions for you. Courtney, I got 4 of them.
All right.
You ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. First quick fire. Who has impressed you the most this season?
So obviously the first guy that comes to mind is a Davis Martin. We've kind of been waiting for him to emerge as this top of the line starter. Again, he had a couple hiccups recently, but he's been pretty consistent so far this year. I think which is crazy to say because he's, I think, 29 years old, but he is still the longest tenured White Sox player in that clubhouse. And you can tell that a lot of these pitchers, they look up to Davis. They are, he's been very helpful to a lot of the young pitchers. He's been a great clubhouse guy. So he's contributed on that end as well. And he's just been sort of the guy at the top of the rotation that we've needed and that we've wanted ever since, we've got Davis Martin. Another guy that I really want to give credit to because he's another sneaky signing by Chris Getz and the Sox has been this Brian Hudson. I mean, because to me, relievers are still so important. They're still so important to a team. That hasn't gone away. And this guy just has emerged as, they're using him as a closer. He's just emerged as like a pretty consistent arm out of that bullpen. And that's something that we've been missing. So I kind of want to give him a little bit of a nod and some of his flowers because he's been really pretty good out of that bullpen and we've needed him. So I like to give him that credit.
All right. I have Miguel Vargas as the one that's impressed me the
That's
most
a good one.
so far
That's
this
a good
season.
one, Josh. You always got to one-up me, don't you? Always got to one-up me.
Let's go with biggest surprise for the White Sox to start 2026.
So I am going to give some love to Chase Mydroth. Chase Mydroth has shown he's got some pop to his bat. I think he has more power than people give him credit for. The guy's played pretty solid defense overall, I think, up the middle. And he's on an 11-game hit streak, 21-game on base streak. The guy puts up good at bats. Good ball player, does the little things right. Giving Chase Mydroth his love for having a little more power than people give him credit for.
I like that one. Who needs to step up for the White Sox to stay ahead of Cleveland?
Back end of the rotation. So, I think Anthony Kay has shown flashes of being decent these past couple starts. Fetty's always a little bit of a wild card. But that's who needs to step up. It's got to be the back end of the rotation.
Yeah, for me, Sir Anthony Dominguez.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to him.
Good point.
I know that he wants to be the closer. Venable says that he's the closer. Let's be honest, Courtney. It's Grant Taylor.
It is Grant Taylor.
That's the closer for the White Sox. We need to see a little bit more from him. I don't want to feel queasy when a left-handed hitter is coming up to the bat and the game is on the line.
I can tell you, I was sweating bullets last night when he came in that close game last night.
And we don't want to be, right?
Right. I want to be just relaxed for that money, that contract. Like let's just be smooth sailing with Sir Anthony. I agree.
Yeah, it's too many dicey appearances. All right, and the final one from now into the trade deadline. So we're talking on June 11th all the way up to August 3rd, a couple months. Who is the White Sox X-factor that can start making more people believe, not only in Chicago, but around the league, that this is a legit playoff team?
I think Colson Montgomery. Colson Montgomery. I think, again, barring any health issues, obviously, any nagging health issues, I think if Colson could start putting together, way more consistent at bats, we kind of heard the whole, and I don't put a lot of stock into this, but the whole Ozzie Guillen rant from, last week, whatever that was. I think if Colson Montgomery can really start being more of a consistent hitter, I think that will show this team, okay, or show the national audience, like, okay, not only is the Sox emerging as like a serious American League contender, but they have multiple players that can contribute. So I think a Colson Montgomery emergence would be great for this stretch.
For me, this is where I think we can talk about Braden Montgomery. Because it's just a small sample size, but we've always known that he had this power potential, Courtney. He's got a cannon for an arm. I've always felt, even when watching him at Texas A&M, that this guy can be a really good right fielder. We have been talking for more than a decade, Courtney, of someone please resolve the right field position for the Chicago White Sox. And back to Will Venable having more guys to trust in the lineup. It would be a huge boost to this White Sox team if Braden Montgomery continues to play at a high level that he showed already in his first 2 games. If he is someone that can bring extra pop and you don't need to bench him and he provides plus defense in right field, I think that is a huge boost to this White Sox.
That is perfectly said. And I have to say, seeing him play in person last night, he is a smooth right fielder. And just a quick little comment on that. When we originally made that trade, obviously for Garrett Crochet, I texted Rob Bradford, who I work with at Baseball Isn't Boring. He obviously covers the Red Sox full time. And I said, give me the rundown on all the guys we got. He was the first text I made. And he said, Braden Montgomery, potential not only MVP of the league, but a consistent all-star. So there we go.
Yeah, well, he's an extra base machine. What a debut for Braden Montgomery. Picked up 2 more doubles, 1 off Chris Sale. So don't stop, Braden. The White Sox need you with Murakami still on the shelf. You can follow Courtney on all the social media platforms, especially on Twitter. She's at Courtney883. And of course, she makes her appearances on the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast and her own show, Pitch and Moan. You can subscribe to those shows and listen to them on the Odyssey app. She's always a good friend to us at Sox Machine. Courtney, I hope you go to more White Sox games in the near future and see if your undefeated streak continues. I hope it does. But thank you so much for pinch hitting for Jim and James on this episode.
Thanks for always having me, Josh. I appreciate it.
That will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you just discovered the Sox Machine Podcast, you can subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. Also, check out our videos at our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. We already exceeded 2,500 subscribers, so thank you so much to all of you who have already subscribed to the Sox Machine YouTube channel. If you haven't yet and you want to check out our feature videos and our post-game press conference videos that James records of White Sox manager Will Venable and when White Sox general manager Chris Getz speaks and the players speak. Again, you can watch those videos on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. We're on social media. We're on all the platforms at Sox Machine. You can follow James at JR Fegan. You can follow me at SoxMachine_Josh. If you enjoy our work and want full access to all of our coverage of the Chicago White Sox, Major League Baseball, and the upcoming Major League Baseball draft, sign up to become a Sox Machine subscriber at SoxMachine.com/products. We are still running our promotion sale in which your first month of a $5 subscription is only 54 cents. So get on it. Go to SoxMachine.com/products and sign up today. And if you want more benefits, you can get more by signing up for our other additional tiers, including our Veterans Committee, in which our VC members will be invited to our group chat, in which they get to text James and Jim directly with their questions of what is going on with the White Sox and even hear more about the gossipers that James is hearing from the White Sox front office and clubhouse. So if you're interested to get more, again, go to SoxMachine.com/products and sign up today. The Sox Machine Podcast is a production of SoxMachine.com. You're on for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.